Hi, well, this is Eric, and remember me. 9 years ago, I posted the cycle of sex addiction, and we had lots of reviews and lots of people talk about this. And I feel very bad that I did not get you more solutions posted, but I've been a busy therapist with many things. So I am committing to put up some posts that are going to be helpful to you in your recovery. Remember the cycle? We have acting out and the relief, and we're going to make it very basic here. We have the guilt, shame thing going on here, and we have a depressed state, and then we have the stress or anxiety. Then we have the trigger event, and then we have acting out. So the reason I post this is because we're going to talk about how to break up the cycle. The thing is, many people try to stop here. Well, it's really hard to stop at this point. It's just like the point of no return. What I work on is this. What I work on is this, and this, and this. Although this is closer to this, and so you're better off kind of working on things here. We often will make vows. So we stop promising to ourselves or to God or to people that we're going to be able to stop. In fact, stopping in one's own strength is part of the problem. We don't even know it. That as we put our own efforts, our own willpower, our own self-direction, our own strength, inner strength to stop. If you have addiction, then you're going to struggle. You're going to have a problem. So developing a program of recovery is paramount. If you are thinking of this as a side issue in your life and you don't have a lot of energy to put into this, the right kind of energy, then you might as well not listen to what I have to say here, and I mean that kindly. If you are really willing to go to any length to get better, and many of the comments, it's all about that. People are having this thing kick their butt. What are they to do? Well, here's the thing. You have a daily program. You get up every morning. You do this program. You will be sober. If you decide, well, I'm just going to take it as needed, or I'll wait till it gets up here, you're going to have trouble. It's just my experience of 30 years of doing this work as a therapist and coach, helping people. So what does a program of recovery look like? Well, think of it as a recipe. If you're to make a cake, you end up having to follow a recipe. And you can't say, well, I'm just going to leave out the flour, or I'm just going to leave out the eggs, or I'm going to just do this. It's not that forgiving. Yeah, you'll end up with something, but not a cake. So if you want to be sober the rest of your life, you want to be free from compulsive sexual thoughts, compulsive behaviors, there are certain essential ingredients to do that. And here are some of what they are. And we'll go into more detail, but this is just an overview. The first thing is the sincerity. You want to be sincere. And I'm not trying to judge people that aren't sincere, but a lot of people come to my office and their wife or their loved one or their spouse is somehow making them want to do this. Or they may have pressure from a legal situation, although in those cases often people are very motivated to get this thing out of their life. So, or if you're just trying to better your life, but you don't have the necessary sincerity or motivation, it just doesn't work. You want to have this with everything you've got. So really what we're talking about is motivation. The next big ingredient is some kind of admission that there is a problem. And the problem is the addiction. And the addiction is bigger than just sex or sexual behavior. Addiction afflicts people at a deeper level. The reality is it makes them think that this, if this represents the addiction, this is my trusted source of comfort. I don't know how to go to God. I don't know how to go to people. I go to this. And so the word addiction, ad dictum, in the Latin means to the dictator. So any addiction begins to become the main focus of why we exist. It's there for us 24 hours a day. It's always going to comfort us except when it doesn't. And if you do the math, most of the time it's not comforting us, it's kicking us in the butt. And maybe we feel better for 20 minutes, if that. So if we admit that we have a problem, you got to find some person to share this with. Okay, so sharing with a friend, sponsor. Sponsor comes from the word 12-step, the 12-step movement. And we'll talk about why that works and some of the positives and the things that don't work so well about it. But if you keep this to yourself, it's just not going to work. And I could add counselor, coach, someone who specializes in this, pastor. Now, a loved one like your parents or your girlfriend, boyfriend, etc., that's tricky. It's just really tricky because the very people that you're trying to get help for are probably the very people that would be so emotional involved, and you would end up hurting them. And so it's just kind of a big mess. So I kind of think it's best to reach out, start talking about this. Sharing, you can go to a group. I love groups. They work really, really well if you get to a healthy group. A healthy group, what I mean by group, is 12-step focused group. Focuses on the 12 steps. It focuses on the solution rather than the problem. I'm not here to speak for any particular group. I will say, though, outside looking in, I see the best success with SA, Sexaholics Anonymous. Then probably Sex Addicts Anonymous is probably the second one. And then Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. You can go online or my website, sexualrecovery.net, to look for those links. Anyway, but to begin to talk about the problem, okay? And so the admission, we can admit it to ourselves, but we somehow have to admit it to God, ourselves, and another human being. And it begins to work. For something we do daily. There is something like a virus scanner or security system on your computer that's continuously scanning for certain things. Scanning for malicious software or malware or viruses, etc. In your life, if you don't scan for what's going to come up that will cause the trigger, the stress on that cycle, then it's just going to catch you blindsided. And then you're going to scratch your head and go, well, why did this happen? I don't know, it just happened. Well, no, nothing just happens. It's just that, like any addiction, we're really unaware that it's happening. We're taking steps ahead, and we have no idea that we were taking those steps. What a good daily program of recovery does is help you see that those steps are, what steps that work, and what steps that don't. And no one has perfect recovery, but I say this to encourage you. If you do the steps, you're going to find yourself being successful. By God's grace, you're going to be sober, you're going to be free from the thoughts, and it's going to be a very good thing in your life. The daily thing works well because you're constantly taking, we'll say, the medicine before you have any problems. It's like an immune system that an addict doesn't really have a good, strong, and emotional immune system. It has all these holes in it, so there's constantly problems and drama, and we'll talk later about the 4 things of resentments and fears and problems with honesty, and then the self-orientedness, the selfishness, self-directed, self-driven. That if you focus on something you do every day to get the ball running, so it's like this virus scanning software that's continuously scanning for these poisons, these toxins, and then if you know how to get those out of your system, they never develop into a problem. It's not that you're not going to be tempted, but you're going to know exactly what to do. The gist of this daily program is it becomes a new habit. Okay? Your addiction is a habit. It's something you don't have to think about doing. It does it automatically. At first, what you do daily is going to seem like a chore, and that's why going to meetings, having a person you call all every day creates a better habit. It's part of the system you use to connect with. And then when you have that cycle going round and around, you're also doing a new cycle, which really isn't a cycle. It's actually helping you stay out of cycle, stay out of that. There's going to be some kind of reading of some kind of literature. I'm a fan of the AA book, and there's a whole story along with that. There are other videos posted of me reading the AA book and talking about how it applies to addiction. That's where you're going to get some good information. There's information from 12-step literature. So I'll just say 12 steps here. 12 steps. When you read this stuff, think of it like reading a cookbook. You don't sit and learn how to make an apple pie and then go, yummy, yummy, that was wonderful. Well, you still have no pie because you actually haven't done anything. You actually have to follow what it does, what it says to do. So if it says, this is what we did, quick, get out your highlighter, underline it, and then just do what it says. It works really well. And we'll be talking about that or those other videos. We'll talk about getting what the to-do items are. But reading the literature puts our minds right, in the right frame of mind. It's like calibrating us to help us think. Let's not be selfish. Let's not be fearful. Let's not be dishonest. So I like the AA book. I like the essay literature. There's lots there. There's SAA literature. There's SLAA. Again, I'm more of a fan of the essay stuff because I think it's just pretty simple. The definitions of sobriety are pretty clear. I'm not here to get into controversial issues. People, I think, do best when they just take what they need and leave the rest. Here's the danger with the leave the rest part. If I go, well, I like flour and egg in my cake, but I'm not going to add all that other stuff. Well, guess what? You're going to end up with something, but not a cake. So if you pick and choose too much what you're willing to do, then you're going to go back to square one, and you have to ask, am I sincerely motivated? If you're working with a coach or a therapist and they say you've got to go to a meeting every week, and you just can't find the time to get to a meeting every week, well, then you may not have the motivation to get better, and the disease needs to roll further in your life until finally you just can't take it anymore, and then you're willing to do this. Admission of a problem, this really has to do with powerlessness. That many of us with addiction feel like, I can just stop this, just give me a chance. Well, the reality is we've been given many chances, and yes, we have stopped. In fact, we're really, really good at stopping. Like, I've stopped 15 times. Well, is that really success? It's staying stopped. And then when you get some good information, you realize you're not going to be trying to stop anymore. That's just you using your own power to try to stop. that a program of recovery is much more about leave the stopping and the trying to control the addiction and just take the medicine over here. Just follow the steps over here and it kills the addiction over there. That you can't directly kill this thing. Unless you can, and if you can, then wow, I'd love to interview you because it's something different than I've ever seen going on. And perhaps you're really not a sex addict, but just someone who struggles with a lot of stuff.